Good morning, friends. Welcome to Breakfast with Pearl Bots. My friend Pearl is here today, and for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm a creative director and co-owner of Ildefonso Inc. We're a music agency and sync house, and Pearl Bots is an artist, transformation coach, and philosopher. So, Pearl, real quickly, before we dive into my questions, why don't you just explain to them what kind of artist you are, what kind of transformation coach you are, and what kind of philosopher you are?
Ooh, okay. How can I say this succinctly? Well, as an artist, I do R&B and soul. And as a transformation coach, I work one-on-one with clients who feel stuck in their life and who just want to make changes. That can be in many different ways. It could be their health, their career, just having different mindsets towards life. And then as a philosopher, the way that I describe it is the kind of breaking down the root word of philosopher. Philo meaning the love or devotion to, and Sophia meaning wisdom. And I think everything in my life is really the pursuit and devotion to and love of wisdom. And that's what being a philosopher is. So even though I may not have a degree in it, it is something that permeates throughout all of my life, even in my music and in my coaching. So that's almost like the first category that everything gets drawn from.
I love that. And that kind of ties into the name of your podcast.
Yes,
which
Pearls
is
of Wisdom.
Pearls of Wisdom. And you were on an episode of Mothership Gear, and we discovered that you're basically the only Pearl Bots, which is like amazing SEO. And so not only that, but you have your podcast named after yourself in a clever way. I'm telling you, this podcast is like ready to blow up. I've been trying to get Pearl to like take this podcast thing like super hard. So we're gonna manifest it.
I love that.
How have you liked being a podcast host so far?
Being a podcast host, it feels like an opportunity to have the level and depth of conversation that I long to have on a regular basis with people I randomly meet, my best friends. Like, I just feel like a lot of times in life, we kind of have more surfacey conversations just because that's what we're all used to. The longing of my soul is to know, like, who are you? How did you become the way that you are? What are your deepest struggles? What are your obstacles? How can we, encourage each other to grow and evolve? But some people just aren't down for that on a random like Tuesday night at a party. So the podcast just gives me an opportunity to really know people in that way. And I think also an opportunity for my guests to even just reflect in ways that maybe they haven't publicly, or, just be able to articulate some things that have been something that they think about but don't really speak about. So I literally love it. I love podcasting.
That's amazing. Who are some guests that the audience here should tune into Pearls of Wisdom for?
I think my episode that I did with Johnny Wisdom was really fun. His name is Johnny Wisdom. My whole entire pursuit in life is wisdom. So I feel like we really connected as far as how we see the world, and we're also both in the music industry. So I think that was a really fun podcast. As well as Mark Eatson. He's a DJ in Las Vegas. So he's, really high energy. And you might have some expectations of what like a DJ in Vegas might be like. But he has such a deep soul, and he has like a very evolved inner world, and he's a very spiritual person. So I think that was a really fun podcast as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited that you're doing that. And so transitioning into something that made me think of you is first, before I get into that, we need to explain what we're having for breakfast. So what are you having for breakfast today?
I am having what is commonly known as the division of family scone because it's so good that it causes arguments, potential divorces. It's causing a ruckus. But it's a cinnamon scone. That's a blend of a coffee cake and a croissant and a scone all in one. And a latte with a cumulus cloud art.
Oh, geez, man, whoever prepared this must be just killing it today.
Truly.
So, Monaco Davis, if you guys are tuning into Ildefonso content, Mo is a great cook and baker. And I love second breakfast. Do you know what second breakfast is?
Like as in the Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
Yes. And I subscribe to it as well. You know,
yeah, right.
I think 2 small breakfasts. I'm here for it.
Hell yeah. I don't know what it is, but like yesterday I had breakfast at 3:00 and I told you today I wake up at 3 in my brain. I'll be up since 8, but my brain doesn't start working until right about now. So yeah, I try to put the best meal right when I'm awake, which is for me, potatoes and eggs. And what I use on my potatoes is rosemary salt, which you gave to Mo for her birthday.
Wait, really?
And I didn't know that. Mo had mentioned rosemary salt once, and I was like, some of my favorite herbs are rosemary and thyme and sage and stuff like that. And I was like, this feels like fancy salt. And I always am trying to punch above my weight when it comes to cooking because I don't know what I'm doing. So I was like, if I have rosemary salt on my potatoes, that might elevate my palate and what I present on the plate.
Highly elevated.
And she was like, oh yeah, that's from Pearl. I was like, duh, because Pearl, if you guys go on her Instagram, she has the most aesthetic food posts. So I was curious, like what kind of role does food play in your daily creative life? What are your origins with food? And then maybe once you tell us that part, give us another seasoning that's bougie and aesthetic.
Okay. I have such an emotional connection to food. My mom is an incredible cook, and I grew up in a huge garden with 1.5 acres of land that had just tons of herbs, tons of vegetables, tons of fruits that my mom utilized in her cooking. She never taught me how to cook anything at all. She just would help me or would ask me to taste her food and then tell me what it might need, and we would kind of figure it out together. And that kind of like taught me how to cook just by tasting. And whenever I cook, I just like my style of cooking is my mom's cooking, which is kind of like whatever cuisine it is with a California fresh twist. So we do a lot of herbs, a lot of like lemon, a lot of just like a healthy fresh twist on whatever it is. But yeah, I like feel like the spirit of my mom coming through me when I cook. And also because my mom grew up with food scarcity in Korea when she first grew up. Like she grew up in a dirt hut. They didn't have running water. They didn't have electricity. They didn't have food. So the fact that my mom is such a good cook and has like so much food abundance also feels like very special. And it's also just something that I have to do every day and is a creative outlet that I'm not going to monetize. I've dabbled in that before and I've realized like it's not for me. I just want to do it out of pure enjoyment. And it's an act of love. It's an act of self-love toward myself, like to make a plate that's I find like appetizing as well as beautiful. And it also can be an act of love toward whoever I'm cooking for. So I love cooking. It's really special to me.
That's an amazing story. And I feel like, yeah, food is such a large part of an artist's identity, whether they know it or not, because it makes you feel a certain way every day. And it's another creative outlet and an art form. And so, yeah, it's very similar to you where like being around great cooks growing up, like my grandma, it's like, there's a reverence there, and it can influence how you tell stories or how you want to make other people feel. So give us another bougie seasoning to add to our lives. Some of us are just using basic salt. We don't even know about rosemary salt.
That's funny. Okay, well, I think just basics. Malden flaky sea salt. You just have to have that to top everything. And then if you're not using fresh cracked pepper, like you have to. I'm sorry, you have to. But something beyond that, let's see. I don't know. Another bougie thing?
I'll say one that you've introduced me to.
Okay.
Brown butter.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Now, I don't know if that's like an ingredient. I don't really know what brown butter is.
Oh.
But I like the concept of it. And it's just one of those things where you nod and agree when someone gives you like, I made brown butter cookies. You're like, that's awesome. And you try it and you're like, I love brown butter. I don't know what it is, but I will say yes to it when it's presented to me.
That's good. Cool. Yeah, I mean, brown butter is just butter that you cooked. So it's brown.
Interesting.
And it adds like another level of flavor and texture, I mean, not texture, flavor. It's like toffee-like.
But flavor is kind of a texture, I feel like.
Is it?
Yeah, like when you have, like when you made me brown butter cookies, I was like, it does feel different. I don't know why. Like, even if it's just flavor, you could have told me that it had like brown sugar in it or something. And I'd be like, yeah, I could tell.
That's funny. Yeah, brown butter. I don't make baked goods without brown butter now. I just automatically brown it. Okay,
good to know. So you're always like on your Instagram at these cute coffee shops, and it's like, I feel like whenever you do anything productive, you're at a coffee shop, but that might just be what you present to the world and not the actual truth. But I'm kind of assuming that's the truth just because that's how the world works. I'm like, Pearl's at another coffee shop. She's got her to-do list. She's writing shit down, and she's living that like Sex in the City life, like a very New York life. So what are the coffee spots that if I'm going to a meeting in LA and I'm going to just name you the role of the person I'm meeting with.
Okay.
And I want you to give me a spot, whether it's lunch, brunch, drinks, or whatever. So I'm meeting a music supervisor. They're like, we want some neo soul R&B for the show. And I'm like, oh man, I want to send them a playlist with Pearl on it. We're going to grab lunch or wherever you think we should go. Where do we go?
Okay. Lunch, not coffee.
It could be coffee if you think that there's a better vibe for coffee.
Okay. Let's see. I mean, I'm a Los Angeles West Side girly. So, I think that the Verve in WeHo is always a classic. It's nice. It has food, has an outdoor area, has an indoor area. There's shade, there's sunshine. You get a little bit of everything. So I like that one.
I love that. Okay, yeah. I'm meeting a young film director and they're looking for music for their project. And I'm like, oh, we want to get this. We want to land this one. We want to have our composers working on this. Where should we go?
Well, if you want to have like a late night situation, like a coffee turned to a wine bar vibe, you could go to Highly Likely.
Okay.
There's one on the east side and there's also one in West Adams. The design is so gorgeous. The food is like really beautifully plated. The coffee's really good. So and it's open late. So I'd say that.
We're meeting an executive producer at a big streaming platform.
I would say the Go Get 'Em Tiger in Culver City, because it's connected to a WeWork. So there's like a lot of like tech professionals there, and there's like a lot of space. There's a lot of room. And then there's like also lots of different like food areas like around there too. So I would say that.
I'm meeting a fellow Lord of the Rings fan who loves Second Breakfast.
Oh my gosh. I feel like it needs to be like fanciful or something. I don't know about that one, to be honest. Wait, Second Breakfast. So we have to have breakfast involved.
Yeah. Best brunch spot in LA.
Oh my gosh, I don't know about that, but there's too many brunch spots in LA. But in Citizens Market, there's a Good Boy Bob. They have chapatis and they have like different flavor combinations. It's like to go. You can go up to the rooftop, but you know, if you need your second breakfast, they also have like a fried chicken sandwich, like Japanese fusion, with like fries with like furikake on top. Oh my God, it's so good. So, you know, you can get as many breakfasts as you want there.
Hell
so
yeah.
I would say that.
Last one, best ramen. They're like, I want great ramen in LA.
I don't know. You'd have to ask someone else. I don't really know ramen like that. I don't know.
Have you been to Tatsunoya in Pasadena?
I actually have been there.
What'd you think?
I honestly don't remember.
Ooh.
But I've never had ramen that I didn't love.
Okay.
Honestly. Because I always get like suggestions from people, like go here. And it's always just
great.
Been amazing.
Okay. Well, thank you for that advice. I'm going to text you that when that happens. Because I feel like that kind of has happened before. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so one thing I wanted to ask you was kind of tying into the fact that you're a West Side girly. Does that mean that you're an introvert or an extrovert?
It means that I like cleanliness and convenience.
Okay. But I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, for me, I feel like as a creative, I've had phases in my life where I want to be everywhere and sightseeing and like going to the places. And I have other phases where I'm like, I just need to freaking write and not do that. And so the phase that I'm in right now, I feel like I'm still very much an extrovert, but my lifestyle is introverted. Would you say that like at your soul, are you most consistently an introvert or are you most consistently like, do you get recharged when you're out meeting artists, meeting producers, meeting songwriters? Like, does that recharge you or does that drain you?
Honestly, I literally feel half and half, like
Kind
both.
of like a hybrid.
I'm completely hybrid. Like I have to be alone. I have to recharge by myself. I have to have almost every day. I have to be alone. And if I'm and I have to be with people. I have to be out. I need both equally as much, I would say. Yeah.
Is that a template for the majority of creatives? Like, because you're out meeting people, like, do you find that other people are similar to you, or do you feel like you're the outlier? Like, what is the trend you're seeing today when you're going to songwriter meetups and networking events? Like, is everyone putting on airs like, I'm being like excited and extroverted because I have to, and then you guys separate off and you're like, oh man, let's just talk for real? Or are people genuinely like craving that social industry feel that they didn't have for a while?
I feel like most people that I meet or that I connect with are more introverted. Like most artists, I feel like and songwriters at least, they're in their heads. They have like very rich inner worlds. They don't really like being out like that, like the glitz and glamour of like Los Angeles and like having to be out late. I mean, the only reason that I'm like out like that is to meet people because I know that they're out there. So I force myself to go out. But I don't know. So maybe I am more like
if you
slightly
woke up
more
with like $100 million in your bank account, would you be like, peace out world, I'm in the mansion chilling all day? Or would you still be like, no, now I have the freedom to like go and see the world and find inspiration in the like real world? What would be that ideal situation?
I definitely wouldn't say peace out. I think I would definitely be out there more, just with better clothes.
Okay, we'll up the clothes game. So let's talk about that. Like, let's talk about threads and threads. Okay. Because you're the only person I know that uses threads consistently, besides a YouTuber that I follow named SkillUp. Okay. There was the big Twitter X conversion, and a lot of people were like, we're going to go over to threads. And they all stopped, except for you, and you've had success with it. So I want to find out a little bit about how you curate your your pictures on Instagram versus like, this is me, this is my aesthetic, this is how I present my vibe to the world in picture form, and then how do I present it like in text, kind of like the philosopher side. How much time do you dedicate to each of them, and what are the goals that you have for those two kind of meta branded apps within an app?
Well, Threads, I feel like with any social media, for me, I think that there's just kind of more natural personality fits for different people. And I just have an onslaught of thoughts at all times in my brain. So the reason that I'm like consistent on Threads is because I have an insane mind and I need a receptacle to put all those thoughts. So I don't think about being consistent. I don't think about it at all. I just put whatever I'm thinking on there. And I guess that translates to consistency. And I guess the thoughts that I say resonate with certain people. So like certain ones have, gotten, more likes and stuff. And that does like encourage me to do more. I'm like, oh, I guess the thoughts that I have, do connect with people. So that it's always helpful when the people who consume your content like reach out to you or tell you how it's, either helped their life or inspired them, or helped them see things in a different way. It also helps when there's haters, because I'm like, oh, that means that I'm actually saying something that has, something behind it. Because if you just say something, it's not art if it's not polarizing. So to me, it's just it's a way for me to get my thoughts out. Yeah, I don't really curate it at all.
That's incredible. Have you followed that author in like 2015, 2016 who wrote Milk and Honey?
Oh, Ruppy?
Yeah, would you ever do something like that? Like with all these, I'm me, I'm like always trying to find ideas, and I'm like, wait, is there an idea there where like one day you take all your threads and like make a little book out of it?
Honestly, I'm glad that you said that, because I think that is something that I would like to do, like take the greatest hits of all my threads and kind of compile them thematically. I think just even for me to have it organized like that would be just fun to see, and maybe even call it like Pearls of Wisdom, like the concept.
Tied in with the podcast, promoted on the podcast.
Yes, yeah. So I think there's another author, Young Pueblo, who has something similar. There's also Brianna Weist, I think, who has The Pivot Year. And then there's Kevin Kelly, who has Advice I Wish I Knew Sooner, or something like that. Yes. Those 3 books are like, if I could be like that, but have my own thing, I think that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, you are really well read, and I have a couple songwriters that I write with where like they always give me book recommendations, and you're one of them. What's the last book you read and why?
The last book I read, I have a hard time remembering because I'm in a big rereading phase.
Ooh, what did you just reread, or what is on the reread list? What's the top of the list?
I mean, books that I would reread. Let me think of like more interesting ones, because there's like the classics like Atomic Habits, The Power of Now. I'm currently reading The Big Leap, and I think that a lot of creatives specifically would benefit from reading that book, because it talks about how we move from like the zone of incompetence to the zone of competence to the zone of excellence, and then ultimately like the zone of genius. And I think the zone of genius is when we combine all of the like seemingly disparate parts of who we are into one unique human being, and then we offer something that no one else can offer, because it's just us and all of the different experiences that we've had. So that's something that I'm constantly striving to do, is just to always live in the zone of genius. And I have like little glimmers of like, oh, I'm in my zone of genius here. So I want to like push up into that. And then it also talks about how sometimes we like self-sabotage our own success, because we feel like we can only get to this certain level. And then once we're there, in some way, like we either get sick or we get into an argument or we spend all of our money. Like we do something subconsciously to put ourselves back into what we think we deserve. So it's a lot about like rewiring our self-concept and like taking the lid off of that cap that we believe that we deserve. So I think a lot of people are doing that, and it's helpful to just create that awareness and mindset. So
that's awesome. I love those insights. Well, thank you so much for having breakfast with me today and eating the croissants of lustful pleasure. Don't get into any fights if we send you home with one or two. Like, you gotta like hoard them. Don't tell other people that you had one.
It's a secret.
Because they cause a lot of beef out in the streets. Okay, well, if you guys liked this show, subscribe, leave a comment, tell us what you're reading, and we will see you guys all next time. Follow Pearl, follow me, and later.